Hi chess fans, in this video we will look at a game played between Vishy Anand and Fabiano Caruana in 2017 in the Sinquefield Cup today. Vishy is playing with white and Fabiano is playing with black. And Vishy is starting with the English opening, c4, e5, knight c3, knight f6, knight f3, knight c6, g3, d5, c takes, knight takes, bishop g2, bishop c5, castle, castle, and white plays d3. Another main line is taking here, and then having an attack on this knight. So if black doesn't want to lose a pawn, he has to retake here, and then I think in the main line, basically black has a perpetual here. So other than the fact that white does not want to do that, because white maybe wants to play for win, what is white's plan here? So obviously the move d3 is freeing up this bishop, but the little bit deeper plan is to play against the pawn on e5 and the knight on c6, because the knight on c6 can be attacked by the bishop at some point, and the pawn on e5 is protected by the knight. It cannot be so easily protected by the pawn because this will open up the diagonal on the king. And on the other hand, this pawn can be relatively easily attacked by white's pieces. So let's have a look how the game continues. Black plays b6. This is a prophylactic move because there's a number of tactical motives in the position. For example, at some point white could take here. Not now, but at a later point, white could take here. Excuse me. Could take on this. Let's say black plays here. So there's motives where white can take and then have the fork here on the bishop and the knight. There's also motives where white can attack the bishop to either make it retreat or to win the bishop. And so bishop b6 is a prophylactic move. The bishop is just not so easy to be attacked here. Bishop d2, bishop g4, and rook to c1. So both sides develop. And now black decided to take the knight here on c3. So why is black taking this knight here on c3? The point is that after h6, white can himself take the knight, and queen takes a4 because the pawn was attacked, and the queen has to move away again because it is in the line of the bishop here. And once the bishop and the rook have this attack on the knight, and the knight here moves away with the discovered attack at tempo, that's losing black a tempo, so the queen has to move back, which gives white the opportunity to push his pawns and create pressure with the minority attack here on the queen side. So that's why black decided to take on c3 himself first. But now, as you can see, this is helping white's plan, because now the bishop is putting pressure on the e5 pawn. The pawn cannot so easily advance because there's no knight here supporting this push to this square. And the rook is also ready to attack the knight together with the bishop, and so white is very happy with the bishop here on c3. But of course, nothing serious has happened. Rook e8, so black is protecting this pawn. b4, white is planning to play against the knight and the pawn. And queen d6 threatens to take this pawn. And now Vishy played the amazing move knight to d2, seemingly allowing black to take this pawn. And now, quick tactics question, can black take this pawn? And what is the tactical motive that makes it impossible for him to take this pawn? Okay, the problem is this bishop here is a loose piece, and the loose piece is always a tactical liability. So going back to bishop g4, this bishop is developing and it's looking useful here, but it's not really pinning the knight. So, and because this knight has moved to d5, it's not protecting this bishop anymore. And so at the position that we were looking at a little bit later, excuse me, at the position that we are looking at a little bit later, this bishop on g4 is a tactical liability. Because if black takes here, white has to move knight to c4, attacking the queen. So the queen wants to maintain coordination with the knight. So maybe the queen moves back here. Knight takes, bishop takes, luring the queen to the b4 square. And now the rook is attacking the queen and the bishop on the double attack. So if black takes, the problem is that after knight c4, a tempo, the queen can be lured to the square where it is then subject to the double attack. And so this rook here is a pretty nice motive, moving the rook to the 4th rank for the double attack. And we will see that this motive comes up later in the game again. So that's why after knight to d2, black tried to maybe bluff a little bit and say, I never wanted to play move the queen to d6 to attack your pawn. I wanted to go here all the time. And so after queen h6, white continued with knight c4, attacking the bishop and the pawn. And black is looking for some counterplay on the e2 square. White is protecting this with the rook. The rook develops to the center, so black is trying to put some pressure here on the structure, but white just exchanges, and now black has a little bit slightly worse pawn structure. White has this majority of pawns here now, and white also has the bishop pair, but nothing too bad yet. In this position, white played an interesting move. Let's look at this position. What is the strongest piece here for white? It's this battery of the queen and the bishop. So f3 is a cool, nice little move, saying, okay, I'm not really weakening my king because I got the dark squared bishop. You don't have a dark squared bishop anymore. And the bishop simply has to retreat. And in this position here, Vichy played the move queen to d2. Very interesting. Many players might have, or some players might have wanted to consider b5, fixing the structure here and also giving some activity to this bishop. And in fact, after queen d2, Fabiano played b5, trying to restrict the activity of this bishop and maybe fixing this weakness here. But now Vichy had an amazing idea. Vichy in this position played f4. And the point is that after e takes f, the rook comes again to the 4th rank. And the point is that the rook here is actually pretty strong. Normally you should be a little bit afraid of putting your rook up in the game so fast. But the situation here is that this rook cannot easily be attacked. If the pawn moves forward, black is forever weakening his king safety. And there is no dark squared bishop. And the rook is having all sorts of threats on the king and also exercising center control. So the rook suddenly becomes a super strong piece. And that's a neat little idea behind this move f4, because if it is bad, if it activates the rook to take this pawn, then I'm just simply threatening taking this pawn here. And this opens the diagonal for the bishop, so even though this move has restricted the bishop a little bit, now I'm planning to activate this bishop even more with the move f4. Okay, so black again is looking for counterplay, which makes a lot of sense, and played bishop g4. But white now liquidates this knight, finally. We are playing against the pawn and the knight, so the knight gets liquidated, and we are simply taking the pawn. As simple as this. Okay, in this position, white is now slightly better. And what to do about this pawn? Fabiano chose the very risky f6. And the point, I guess, was that black really wanted to open up this line and exercise pressure on the light squares, because the light squared bishop now is away, and on the square e2. So white was counting that, black was counting probably that he can simply win back this pawn in the next move, because it would be crazy to open up this line, wouldn't it? But this is exactly what Vichy did, and the point is that Fabiano played rook takes e2, looks very dangerous, but the point is that after f7, the king has to move to e8, because otherwise it's simply mate. The point is that after king to f8, black has a resource that gives him the win. Even though his queen is attacked, the light squares are dark. What is the winning move for black in this position? And for white. White can play bishop takes g7 check, and after king takes, queen c3 check. And what's the big problem here? The big problem here is that white is threatening queening, so this basically grounds the rook to the side, and if the king moves back, white is simply mating. Because if the king now moves back, we win the rook, so the king has to move away, but this simply allows us to queen, or even give some nasty checks before that. So the king cannot move back, so black has to move something in between, and if he moves the queen in between, we are winning this rook, or at least the exchange. So probably Fabiano didn't want to do this and thought everything would be fine after rook to e5, blocking the check. But in this position, white has a winning resource. And what's the winning move for white? How can white take advantage of this pawn here? Yes, simply moving the queen to d4, because as we said, this rook is immobilized. And black is trying to protect this rook with queen g5, but white has the resource rook c5, piling up pressure on the e5 rook, overloading this queen, because this queen is now protecting this rook and this rook. And so the best that Fabiano came up with was taking the queen, but then after f8 queen check, in this position Fabiano resigned in view of king to h6, rook f6 check, queen g6, queen f8, and the entire black position is collapsing. Okay, so what I found really nice about this game is that both in this position here, the tactical resource where the rook comes up to the 4th rank, and then the idea behind f4, where if black takes, the rook also comes to the 4th rank. So Vichy really seemed to have a game here. And indeed, bringing the rook to the 4th rank, in the first case for a double attack, to have it as a tactical resource, and in the second example, after the dark squared bishop is off the board, the rook simply becomes a good piece here, is a motive you don't see so often, and I think it's very instructive to see how this game was essentially decided in 2 critical moments by the same motive. Okay, thanks a lot for watching. See you next time.